Walkers are a staple of the Star Wars universe and a mainstay of the armies of both the Republic and the Empire. The Republic, in particular, made use of a wide variety of walkers during the Clone Wars, most of them made by Rothana Heavy Engineering or Rothana's parent company, Kuat Drive Yards. Typically, they were of the infamous all-terrain line, which would go on to include several more iconic but terrifying war machines under the Empire. But which of the Republic AT walkers was the best? In this video, we'll be answering that question.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
We're going to be comparing 4 walkers today: the AT-TE, the AT-RT, the AT-AP, and the AT-XT. Let's start with the AT-RT, the All-Terrain Recon Transport. The smallest walker regularly used by the Grand Army of the Republic, the AT-RT, was designed for speed and mobility, and it excelled in both categories. The walker was capable of running at up to 90 kilometers per hour, it could jump fairly long distances, and thanks to advanced gyroscopic technology, it was able to maneuver with incredible precision at these speeds. The walker moved in such a fluid, organic manner that clones trained to use AT-RTs actually started by learning to ride organic mounts. Both the walker's speed and maneuverability served the AT-RT well in fulfilling its primary purpose as a recon vehicle, and they also helped the walker avoid or outmaneuver more sluggish enemy vehicles. But the AT-RT was useful in combat too. Its chin-mounted repeating blaster cannon was surprisingly powerful, meaning a few AT-RTs could take down much larger tanks. The walker could take a few hits too, though most of the time, drivers preferred to avoid incoming fire instead of having to trust the craft's relatively thin armor. This leads us to the AT-R's biggest weakness: its poor defensive capabilities. Sure, it was armored and surprisingly resilient, but its armor was still rather thin and it didn't shield the pilot completely. AT-RT drivers were always exposed to the enemy, and as a result, a good sniper could neutralize one of these walkers with a single shot. Moving on, we have another smaller walker, the AT-XT. This might be the first time you're hearing of these oft-ignored war machines. That's because they didn't see nearly as much use as the other walkers on this list. The key to why is in the vehicle's name. AT-XT stands for All-Terrain Experimental Transport. The AT-XT was a constant work in progress, and over the course of the Clone Wars, the engineers at Rothana kept tweaking it in an attempt to optimize its performance. Despite the AT-XT constantly being pulled from service for upgrades, it was still used a fair bit by the GAR, and it's not hard to see why. Despite being a one-man vehicle, the AT-XT was about the size of the later AT-ST, which makes sense because the AT-ST evolved from the design of the older experimental walker. Its layouts and maneuverability were also similar to its Imperial cousin, with a large, armored head atop 2 spindly seeming legs. The AT-XT was fast and maneuverable with a top speed of 75 km per hour. The AT-RT was a bit faster of course, but the AT-XT more than made up the difference with its other attributes. The AT-XT was well armed with a powerful chin-mounted dual laser cannon and 2 shoulder-mounted powerful proton grenade launchers. The chin guns were precise enough to be highly effective against infantry, but powerful enough to also be highly effective against fortifications or armored vehicles, and its grenade launchers could demolish whole columns of enemy infantry or light vehicles in just a few salvos. The AT-T was also well protected with highly durable armor, especially around the cockpit. On top of this, some models also had a built-in plasma shield, which allowed the walker to shrug off considerable amounts of damage. Of course, the AT-XT wasn't without its flaws. It was, after all, an experimental vehicle, and aspects of its design were constantly being tweaked by the engineers at Rothana, which was a nuisance for combat mechanics and walker pilots alike. Additionally, it lacked the sheer firepower of larger Republic walkers, such as the one we'll be discussing next. Next up, we have the AT-AP, the All-Terrain Attack Pod. This odd-looking craft was essentially just the front half of an AT-TE designed for maximum firepower. It was conceptualized more as a walking artillery piece than a tank. It was slow and had poor maneuverability, and the Walker's sheer firepower required it to deploy a third leg to anchor itself in place when its main gun was being fired. But the AT-AP was also very heavily armoured, and its firepower was unrivaled. The AT-AP had 3 weapons. The least noticeable was a medium laser cannon mounted on the underside of the main compartment, which was meant to dissuade enemy infantry or light vehicles from getting too close. The turret mounted a heavy blaster cannon on the Walker's top was meant to take out similar targets but at longer ranges, while the Walker's main gun was a huge mass driver cannon capable of pulverizing virtually anything. The main gun fired Durasteel shells wrapped in energy cocoons, and it was even more powerful than the mass driver of AT-TE Walkers, which is saying something. All 3 of the AT-AP's guns were linked to state-of-the-art targeting systems, which were so precise, this Walker was sometimes called the sniper tank. Lastly, we have the GAR's most iconic Walker, the AT-TE, or All-Terrain Tactical Enforcer. The iconic AT-TE was a massive armoured slab propelled by 6 legs and covered with laser cannons. The iconic AT-TE was a massive armoured slab propelled by 6 legs and covered with laser cannons, a bulwark of Republic forces the galaxy over. It was slow compared to smaller Walkers, but its armour was incredibly strong, and its firepower was similarly impressive. The AT-TE's main weapon was a turret-mounted mass driver cannon capable of shelling enemy positions from afar, and it also sported 6 ball turret-mounted laser cannons, 4 on the Walker's fronts and 2 on its rear, which kept the vehicle safe from enemy infantry or light vehicles. But the most important aspect of the AT-TE was not its weapons nor its armor, but its role as a mobile command post. The AT-TE could transport 20 clones at a time, and it served as a rallying point in battle, supporting clone platoons in the fiercest fighting. This was actually the primary purpose of the AT-TE under the Kaminoan standardized GAR battle plan, and it was a purpose this Walker served well. It remained at the forefront of Republic forces for the entire length of the Clone Wars, and it's not hard to see why. Now that we've gone over the strengths and weaknesses of each Walker, it's ranking time. At number 4, we have the AT-AP. These Walkers had seriously impressive firepower, but that was pretty much all they brought to a battle. The AT-AP's terrible maneuverability and the need for it to anchor in place to fire seriously hindered its utility on the front lines, especially since all of its guns were oriented in the same direction. In practice, the GAR always supplemented AT-APs with support from other vehicles because they just couldn't do all that well on their own. If you ask us, that makes it an easy last place. At number 3, we have the AT-RT. These little buggers were nimble, and they were popular among GAR tacticians for a reason, but they left their pilots much too exposed. AT-RT riders weren't even fully protected from the front, and the Walker had virtually no armoring along the sides, which undermines the utility of these agile war machines. It was a hard call, but we think we're going to have to put the AT-TE at number 2, if only barely. These legendary Walkers were extremely effective due to their considerable firepower, heavy armor, and utility as mobile command posts. But they struggled to live up to the first half of their names. They were slow, had a hard time maneuvering, and they didn't do well with tight spaces due to their massive size. Their size, or more specifically their weight, also proved to be a problem on unstable terrain. As a matter of fact, the Republic lost the Battle of Agamar because the weight of the advancing AT-TEs collapsed a vital bridge. This leaves us with the AT-XT as the Republic's best Walker. These lesser known Walkers did a fantastic job balancing speed, maneuverability, firepower, and protection, especially the variants with built-in shield generators. Much like the later AT-ST, the AT-XT was well-rounded and lacked any specific weaknesses. It wasn't as fast as the AT-RT, it wasn't as tough as the AT-TE, and it wasn't as powerful as the AT-AP, but it didn't have any of their weaknesses either. To use the full form of an oft misquoted saying, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. But that's just our assessment. What's yours? Would you rank the Walkers of the Grand Army of the Republic differently? If so, feel free to give us your rankings in the comments below. Would love to see them. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next video.